Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Cookies and Canvas for Kids. So today, I'm going to be painting my piece, Loving Flamingo, and I'm going to be eating these delicious salted caramel chocolate chunk cookies. So let's paint our canvas and eat our cookies. All right, so for the materials today, I'm going to be using a Stretch and Prime 16 by 20 canvas, which of course you can switch up the size. That's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint. The colors I'm using are titanium white, fire red, Mars black, cobalt blue, fluorescent green, fluorescent purple, and deep yellow. And of course you can switch up those colors, but that's what I'm going to be using. For tools today, I'm going to be using a number 2 pencil for a sketch. I'm going to be using 3 brushes. Well, this is a 1/2 inch wide bristle brush, number 8 round brush, and this is a number 1 round brush, and I'll refer to them as small, medium, and large as we go through the process, and of course you can switch those up if you'd like. You're going to need a cup of water for washing your brushes, and you'll need a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below the video, I'm going to be providing you with a few things. One of them is a link where you can purchase this entire convenient DIY paint kit. It's got the exact colors and brushes and all the same materials that I'm using. And it's put together nice and convenient for you. Then there's going to be a free downloadable image of the final painting. So if you want to just print that and use it as a visual reference as you go along, as well as written instructions that you can print and go by step as you going through the process. But the most important thing I'm going to put down below is a delicious recipe for my salted caramel chocolate chunk cookies. And that's all you're going to need today. All right, so what we're going to do for the first step is we are doing a sketch or the outline of our flamingo head and neck. I'm going to be using my pencil, and it's going to just be a series of shapes. I'm going to give you some starting points and some markers, and we're just going to connect those markers. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to kind of figure out, just eyeball where the center of my canvas is, and I'm going to come down maybe about 2 inches, and I'm going to make myself a little mark. Then I'm going to come straight down from there, and I'm going to come down to about halfway between the bottom and the top. And wherever you think that spot is, that's totally fine. If you're not exactly where mine is, no worries. And with these 2 markers, those are going to be my top and my bottom of my circle. So I'm just going to take my pencil, and I'm just going to kind of make a circle on that side, a 1/2 circle on that side, and a 1/2 circle on this side. And you can see I'm almost like sketching it. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, and you can certainly kind of manipulate it and work it a little bit different if you want to. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my neck on. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to come straight down to the bottom of my canvas from the left side of my circle. Just bring your, an imaginary line down there and come to the left maybe about 1 inch or 2 and make yourself a little marker there. And then what I'm going to do is on the right hand side, I'm going to come all the way down, just kind of an imaginary line down to the bottom of my canvas, and you can come into the left just about maybe 1 inch from that point. So you've kind of shifted these 2 lines a little bit to the left. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start somewhere in this vicinity where this curves and it starts to go down here. That's going to be the start, and I'm going to connect this mark to this mark with kind of like a long backwards S. So I'm going to kind of go down pretty far, maybe past like the halfway point of that section, and then I'm going to come over to the left, and then I'm going to give it a bump right here, and that's going to connect it to my dot down here. And then on the right hand side, where the head, the back of the head starts curving in, that's where you're going to start this side. This is going to be the back side of the neck. And I'm going to kind of follow the same backward S kind of shape, but first I'm going to come in a little bit, and then I'm going to start following this, and I want to hit my bottom mark here. So I'm going to come out a little bit, and then I'm going to curve it back in a little bit, and then hit that mark. And again, if yours doesn't come out exactly like mine, it's okay. There's all different kinds of shapes to the flamingo's necks. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come down a little bit down the top, from the top of the head to maybe about here, and you can make yourself a mark. And then the next mark I'm going to do is going to be down in this vicinity. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to the left of this body a little bit, and then you're going to come up maybe, I don't know, maybe about an inch and a half from here, and make yourself a little mark. So I'm going to connect here to here. And what this is going to be the big, huge front part of the beak of. So I'm going to kind of do it in the air first so you can see what's going to happen. I'm going to actually come down like this. I'm going to scoop it up a little bit because there's a little bump on the end of on the top part of the beak, and then it's going to come way down and just kind of scoop down and hit my mark down here. So here I go. I'm going to come down a little bit. I don't want to come down too far. Wherever this mark is, you don't want to go past that. So this little scoop, you only want to come down, maybe 2 or 3 inches, and that's when you're going to start to lift it back up. You want this part that bumps out to be farther to the left than this dot here. So I'm going to kind of bump this up in through here, and now I'm going to give it a big, huge scoop down and meet my mark down here, which is super fun. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from this mark, come up maybe about an inch, make yourself a mark. You're going to connect this mark to the point of the beak in a kind of similar motion, but you don't need to put this big hump on it. So here I go. I'm going to come scoop it down like this, maybe come up just a little bit, and then I'm just going to kind of give it a big, huge scoop over here. And I missed my mark a little bit, which you might too. So all you need to do, just kind of connect them so they come at a little point. And then I'm going to make myself a similar, like a curve mark here, because we need to separate the black part of the beak from the pink part. So I'm going to go past this curve here to maybe about here, and I'm going to come past this curve here to maybe about here, and then I'm going to make myself some kind of separation like that. Okay, now I'm going to give myself a little bit of a mouth. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to come just back behind this mark a little bit, right to about here. And then I've got this as my marker where that circle meets the neck. That's going to be my marker for there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down like this. He's going to have a big open mouth, something like this. And then I'm going to bring it up to meet that. And again, yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Yours is going to have its own little shape to it. And then I want you to erase a couple of lines, but you don't have to erase them 100%. It's just going to make your painting process easier later if we try to erase these 3 lines of this circle. And again, you don't have to erase them all the way, but if you can erase them a little bit, that's going to make your painting process a little bit easier. So once I get those erased, I'm going to be switching to my big brush for the next step. And again, you can see mine are not 100% erased. Yours don't have to be either. So I'm going to put down my pencil. I'm going to pick up my big brush, take a bite of my cookie, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to be doing next is we're painting the sky. I'm going to be using my big brush. I'm going to be using blue and white on my brush at the same time. You could do almost any kind of brush stroke that you want. I'm gonna probably be using like this left to right type of brush stroke. I like to paint the edges of my canvas too, so if you want to paint the edges as you go along, that's great. And I like my sky to have different colors in it or different shades of blue. So I just picked up only white without washing my brush. And what's going to happen with my sky is it's going to get lighter and lighter as it comes down my canvas. When I get right up to the bird itself, I do want to make sure that I get my paint right up to the bird. It's okay if you go over the edge of your pencil a little bit, that's fine, but you do want to just make sure that you get your paint all the way to the edge. You could even do little circles like this as if you're painting little clouds going by. Whatever shade of blue is appealing to you is totally fine. I like mine, again, to have different shades of blue, so that way it kind of looks like, you know, there's little clouds going by. I totally know that flamingos love to hang out in beautiful, nice, sunny weather. So I'm going to make sure my sky is nice and bright and has lots of, you know, lightness to it. So we give this pelican the exact, or flamingo. I think flamingos are a kind of pelican. If my knowledge of birds is correct, I think that a flamingo, you might want to fact check me on this one, is a type of pelican that eats a lot of pink fish, which give it its color. I might totally be wrong, but I think that's what I've learned in my, you know, in my time on this earth here, that these, what we perceive and call the pink flamingo, are a species of pelicans. So we'll see if I'm right on that, because I know a bunch of you like to kind of call me out on what my knowledge really is on these certain things. So I'm just kind of going along, making sure I have this entire sky painted. And again, yours can be light or dark, have some clouds going by, whatever is pretty to you. I'm using a series of different brush strokes. I'm kind of going left to right. I'm doing circles, but I do want to make sure that by the time I'm done, it looks like it's the same sky. I don't want to have circles on the left and stripes on the right. I definitely want to make sure that I've made a conscious effort to make the whole thing look like it belongs together. Even if you have some lighter sections than others, that's great. But you do want to maintain some kind of painting consistency. So again, it looks like the same person painted it, and that you've got a nice, you know, even kind of look to it, even if they, you know, even if it's different colors or you've got some swirls somewhere and some stripes other places, just make sure that you've got a nice, kind of, you know, symmetrical look about it with your paint strokes. And again, I'm kind of getting my sky to go a little bit lighter as it comes down. And when I do it like this, sometimes it reminds me, you know, I've been to the ocean a couple of times, and to me, when you're looking at like the ocean sky, sometimes the ocean almost like disappears at that horizon line. So, you know, maybe this resembles that to you. Maybe it, you know, gives you the idea that there's these beautiful, you know, breeze coming by, ocean breeze that's just kind of letting these clouds just drift by, and you're in a little, you know, vacation-y kind of land. And again, I'm just kind of finishing up here, getting the rest of this sky done. You can have it as light or as dark as you want. Just make sure you get it all the way up to the bird. Make sure that you've got, it's okay again if you bump into the bird, and make sure it kind of looks like it all belongs, not like you've just colored an outline around your bird. So that's why I'm just kind of almost making sure that I have it all blended nice. And then I'm going to switch brushes to my medium brush. So once you get your sky all nice and painted in, I'm kind of also taking care of any really thick spots. So that's this little touch up I'm doing. You can put your big brush away in your water cup, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we are painting the base coat for the flamingo head and neck. I'm gonna be using red and white, and I'm gonna use my medium paintbrush. I'm not gonna pre-mix a pink color because I want this to look really natural. So I'm gonna actually be mixing the color on my canvas at the same time. And if you can get the top of the head a little bit lighter and down in through here a little bit darker, that's great. But if it all turns into the same color, that's fine. So I'm gonna take red and white on my brush at the same time, and you can use a good amount of paint on your brush, and you do not need to do any particular brush stroke. You just wanna get it colored in. So you wanna make sure that you hide your pencil mark. So I'm just I have a good amount of paint on my brush, which allows me to kind of go far with one brush stroke, and just getting all the way down to the bottom, and I'm just gonna paint it in. You don't have to do any particular brush stroke. It can be a dark pink, it could be a light pink. Even though I might not totally be correct on the flamingo / pelican debate, I do know that flamingos start out like a grayish color, and they end up turning various shades of pink based on the shrimp that they eat, because there's pink shrimp. So this all has to do with their diet, which is super cool in my opinion. So you can have lighter or darker shades of pink. They come in all different varieties, all the way up to, I think you can have white, a lot of white in a flamingo. So I'm just kind of getting this bottom portion done, and then what I'm gonna do is when I go to do the top portion, you're gonna do this whole mouth all the way up to this line here is gonna be that some shade of pink. And I'm just gonna kind of get this area here. And again, I'm using a good amount, which is kind of a lot, of paint on my brush so I can get nice fluid strokes. And it's okay, again, if one area is lighter or darker than the other, that's just gonna make it look more natural. But if you can, when you get to the top of the head, as I'm slowly making my way towards there, if you can make that area a little bit lighter, that's going to make it look even more natural. So again, I've got this little sliver right here. I'm making sure I've got that pink. I'm gonna start to use more white on my brush in a second here. Just wanna get this part all nice and colored in. And then now I'm gonna start to use more white. So if you had a lot of the pink on your brush, you can just pick up white without washing your brush, and it's gonna naturally get nice and light up at the top. And you can certainly reshape this head if you want to, if you feel it needs to go out further or up further. Now's the time to kind of reshape it. And I just want to make sure I get this whole head covered in all the way up to this black, what's going to be a black part. I just reloaded my brush with red and white, and I'm just going to go a little bit slower right here at this area because I want to make sure I get all of my pencil covered and get all the way to that area that we've designated as the black part of the beak, which we'll be doing in a couple of minutes. And then we are going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got the whole head and beak, well, front part of the beak and the neck colored in, you can, well, you don't even have to wash and dry this brush. We're gonna use the same brush with the same colors for the next step. So just take a bite of your cookie or whatever you're snacking on and get ready for the next step. All right, so here comes a fun part. We are going to be doing the peace sign hand, but we're just gonna do the base coat. I'm gonna use my medium brush. I'm gonna use red and white on my brush, so I didn't wash it, and I'm just gonna reload it with red and white. And again, this is just gonna be a couple of shapes and marks, nothing too tricky here. So I'm gonna come over to the left from the bottom of my mouth. So I'm gonna come directly over to the left, And somewhere in this vicinity, that's where I'm gonna start at that height and about halfway between my beak and here. And I'm gonna make myself a circle that's about the size of like a $50 or a big quarter, which I think would constitute a $50. And once I make that mark, then I'm gonna make the arm. I think I want mine just a little bit bigger here. So I think that represents maybe between a $50 and a coin dollar. I don't know how big that is. So I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. And then what I'm going to do is I've got to make myself an arm. So I'm just going to take it from a little bit to the right of this, the right side, or a little bit to the left of the right. And I'm going to just bring it down. And I'm going to do maybe a little bit wider at the bottom. Not too much. And then if you don't want it to look like it's too bobbly, I can just close off this little corner here and this little corner here. Just make them a little bit more on the rounded side. Because I know we need to get our flamingo anatomy absolutely correct on our cartoon character. And now I'm going to make the two fingers going up. So I'm just going to make these in like a V fashion. So I'm going to do one over on the right hand side, and I want these kind of high. I think I'm gonna make it a little bit higher than this, just so you can really see them. And the other one's gonna be somewhere about here. And then I'm gonna make like the two. I don't know if I can do this right. The two knuckles right here. So I'm just gonna make a couple of little bumps over here on the left hand side. So one bump there, and then another bump here. And we're going to make the detail with like the thumb and stuff later. So this is really as far as you need to take it for this step. And then we're going to use the same brush for the next step, but you'll want to wash it and dry it. So wash and dry your brush and get ready for the next step. All right. So what we're going to be doing for the next step, we're using our medium brush and we're painting the wing, which I believe is also known as a flapper or a glider. And I'm pretty sure you can look that up too. So the three colors I'm going to be using are black, red, and white. I want you to be careful of the black though. We're going to be using it first, and then we're just going to go right into using red and then red and white. So I'm not going to use a lot of black. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a little bit of black on my brush. This is going to almost act as like shadows underneath some of the feathers, and it also will help to complement this big black beak that we're going to be putting on later. So I want my big, huge flapper wing to be really fun and big and vibrant. So I'm going to have it coming almost up to the top of my head. And it's going to come down to here, but I don't want to mark it yet because I don't want to have black down here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to think of these as almost like pieces of grass. And I'm just making a few of them over here on the right side. I'm going to bring some of them down to about mid-neck. And again, I'm not really doing much other than these kind of curvy lines. And now I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm going to pick up red. And I'm going to start to add some red into this right-hand side. And again, I'm just kind of overlapping some of these wings or some of the black feathery darker spots. And now that I've got a little bit going on with just red, now I'm going to start to pick up red and white. And now this is where you're going to start to see that I'm going to go faster and I'm going to use longer strokes. So that was more controlled. And now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to really have a whole bunch of fun with this. You can, if you want to, at any time, you can kind of, now that you've got red and white on your brush, you can start down at the bottom and just give yourself almost like a little roadmap where you want them to go. And most of them are just going to go up and over to the right. If you find that you still have a lot of black on your brush, then I do recommend washing your brush and drying it and starting over with the red and the white, because you don't want that black to take over. And again, I'm just kind of going up and over with these brush strokes. And I'm going to try and get lighter and lighter as I come towards this left-hand side, which means I'm using more white. And I just keep doing this until I have enough of these marks that resemble a nice feather assortment. So right now I've got more red on my brush because I want it to fill in really nicely over here. I'm picking up white now. And again, I'm just kind of going up and over. I keep kind of alternating my red and my white just so I have some light spots and some dark spots. And I'm, kind of disguising some of that black a little bit because I really just want that to kind of resemble, almost like the shadowy kind of area. And I'm picking up white right now. And again, I'm just really having a whole lot of fun with these, upward kind of droopy brush strokes that I'm doing. And then when I come over to this left-hand side, I'm using a ton of white. And my key, or my goal, is in this middle area. I don't want to see any of my blue sky behind it. So I'm going to keep adding these feathers until I can't see my sky anymore through this middle area. It's okay if you do around the edges, which is why we had, why we kind of left, or we're doing this on top of the sky, so that way we can see the sky a little bit around those edges. But in the center area, you definitely want to make sure that you've covered up all your sky. But again, around the edges is okay. And I'm just going to kind of keep going until I have enough here that I feel is pretty enough and full enough, and you can really get these big huge ones going if you want to. I'm adding some more red here because I think the red is going to look cool, and I want to make sure I can see these little feathers almost independently from one another. And I'm almost done here. I love painting feathers. Feathers are like grass to me. It's one of those things that I really have a tough time stopping. But I am almost done here. And then we are going to use the same brush for the next step. So if you can ever control yourself to stop painting, as you can see, I can't. We're going to be using the same brush for the next step so you can wash it and dry it. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we are using our medium brush, and we're going to paint the black beak and the black mouth, and I'll show you how to separate it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to separate the top part of the face with the mouth part. So I'm using my medium brush, I'm using black paint. You might want to use your small brush, but I'm going to use my medium brush. And I know that I want the beak part you already have a line for it. If you might be able to see it, you might not, but it was that curved line that we had underneath that goes right into the face. So if you can see yours, great. If not, it's going to be about maybe an inch or so up from this point, which is where it intersects kind of with the face. And then I'm going to go down like this, and you have this little curve there. And then what I do is I'm going to bring this into the face, maybe about another, I would say maybe a half of an inch or so, or maybe half of an inch to an inch. And then I'm going to put a little cheek smile line. So I'm going to start at the top, maybe about a quarter of an inch away, come down and just kind of give it like a little curve. Now I'm going to put a black interior for the mouth. So I'm going to come over from this left-hand side, maybe about a half of an inch to an inch, make myself a mark, and then where the neck portion is over here, you're going to come down maybe about an inch and a half, and that's where your other side of the tongue is going to go. And then I'm just going to kind of do almost like an interior outline based on what this looks like. So I'm going to go something like this, and then just color it in black. And then when you color that in black, we're going to color the beak with black paint. So I'm just going to take my brush, I'm going to continue this line right here, and I'm just using black paint right now. So I've got, gonna go right out to the beak, and you might find your beak grows a little bit at this point because you might or might not stay directly inside your lines, but you definitely at the end of this step want to make sure that all those pencil marks are hidden. So even if you find that you have to go outside, a little bit or whatever, that's okay. Just make sure all those pencil marks are hidden. And if you're having trouble getting a nice clean line on the edges, one of my tricks is you can add a little bit of water right into your black paint. You could just take a drop of water and put that in your black paint and spin it around. That's going to make it nice and thin, like an ink consistency. And that helps you to make these more slender, clean lines. Or, like I said, you could use a smaller brush. And I'm just going to make sure I get my edge nice and clean there. Now I'm going to go get that little part up here that's hitting the pink area. And I have a shaky hand, so you might notice every now and again I stick my pinky on my canvas or my palm of my hand or something. That helps me to stabilize my paintbrush. That's just one of my little tricks. And then we are going to use this same paintbrush for the next step, but you're going to want to wash it and dry it. So once you get this step done, you can wash and dry your medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm doing the outline for the sunglasses. I'm going to use my medium brush, and I'm using yellow and white on my brush at the same time. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to do a diagonal line that's going to be pretty close to the top of my head, maybe just as it's cresting down a little bit, maybe about an inch. And that's kind of where I'm going to start it. It's going to be at a diagonal with the right side being a little bit lower than the left side. So I'm going to do my left side first, just so I have kind of a starting point. And I know I want the left side of my sunglasses to be about directly above the left side of my mouth. So I'm just going to kind of go directly up, find myself a spot that's a little bit higher than this spot, and I'm going to start there. And then I'm going to draw a continuous diagonal line to about an inch away from the back side of my head. So here I go. I'm just going to kind of go diagonal, diagonal, diagonal. And if it's not perfect, no worries. So that's going to be my diagonal line. I'm going to add a little bit more white over here so it's not so see-through. And then once I have that, now I'm going to do a curved, like the bottom half of a circle from where my head meets the sky on the bridge of the sunglasses over to this curve here. And I'm going to keep it a little bit away from my smile line. So here I go. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to do a big, huge curve. I'm going to bring it all the way up to this edge over here. And you can make these sunglasses whatever kind of sunglasses you want. They could be those cat kind of sunglasses that poke out on the side. They could be, new wave funky glasses with, feathers coming out of them or something, but you can make them whatever way you want. But I'm just going kind of for a generic aviator type glasses. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side, only I'm going to make this a little bit away from this one, and I'm going to do another curve that's going to end up here. We want this side to be smaller than that side so it looks like the head is tipped a little bit. So here I go. I'm going to start a little bit away, and I'm going to bring it down, and then I'm going to bring it back up, something like that. And if you miss your mark, that's okay. You can just kind of finagle it a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bridge on the nose part, or where a human nose would be. So something like that. And then I'm going to put an arm on the glasses. It's going to be a little bit down from this corner, and the diagonal line is going to be in the opposite direction. Something like that. And then that is all I'm going to do for the outline of my glasses. I'm going to use the same brush for the next step. So when you're all done with this, you can wash and dry this brush, take a bite of your delicious cookie, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're doing the first layer of the glass on our sunglasses. I'm using my medium brush. I'm going to use blue and white paint. And my trick here is I don't use a lot of paint. I'm going to start with blue, no white, and I'm just going to kind of get up in this top right-hand corner with my blue on both of them. My goal here is to have it darker in the top right and lighter in the bottom left of both lenses. So I'm just starting with blue right now. And if yours ends up being just one solid color, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We're going to be putting this big, cool peace symbol on top of it later. So don't worry if you don't get this perfect. But once I've got some blue on here, and you might even see the underneath or see the color of like the pelican or the pelican, there I go again, the flamingo underneath, which is super cool. It'll just make your glasses look like they're see-through. And then I just picked up white. I didn't wash my brush. And now I'm going to start to blend that blue, the darker blue, over to a lighter blue over on the left-hand side. So I'm going to do the same thing for both sides of the glass. And again, if yours doesn't get perfect, don't worry about it. My trick is I don't use a lot of paint, so that helps me to kind of blend as I go, but it might not end up perfect, and that's okay. This is just meant to kind of look like the reflection in the glass of other stuff. It could be the reflection of the sky. It could be the reflection of, the ocean. It could be the reflection of, the beach. It could be the reflection of some palm trees. But we're going to make it the reflection of some really cool peace symbols and in the midst of like the sky. So you can really imagine yours to be whatever you want. And then when we get done with this step, we're going to be switching to the small brush. So once you've got a nice kind of, if you can get a blend, great. If not, just paint it blue. Once you get this step all nice and done, we are going to switch brushes to the small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are going to finish our hand for the next step. I'm using my small brush. I'm going to use black, white, and red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with black, and I'm going to do an outline to indicate the shadows on my hand. So for me, the sun is on the left, so my shadows are on the right. So I'm going to, in essence, kind of outline each piece on the right-hand side with black paint. The only little twist to that is I've got to kind of find a place to put my thumb. So I'm going to show you how to outline that thumb first. So I'm going to take my small brush, black paint, and again, my trick, add a touch of water into it. I get it nice and kind of fluid. Spin your brush on the side of your palette. That makes it nice and pointy. And then for my thumb, if I was to just kind of imagine here, is going to kind of go around here. I'm going to start it kind of between the bottom part of it. I'm going to start between these two fingers here. So I'm really just going to kind of give myself a little curve like that, and then a little crease like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that black paint, and now I'm going to outline the right-hand side of each one of these objects. So here I go. Outline the right. Oops, got a little bit too much paint on my brush there. Outline the right. Outline the right. You're going to hear me in your sleep saying, outline the right. But wait, I'll do the left in a minute too. Right now I'm just doing the right. So again, I'm just kind of taking my brush, outline the right. Going to do the right side of this part, which is going to be the palm. So it's actually going to come into the wrist a little bit. So outline the right and come into the wrist a little bit. And then you're going to outline this whole right hand side. I've got my hand resting on my easel because again, I don't have the sturdiest of hands. So if you run into that same issue as I do, just brace yourself or just go with the wiggle lines. And then I'm going to quickly wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put white on it So now I'm going to do the highlight on the left-hand side. So white paint, and this you don't necessarily have to fully outline, but you want to kind of outline the top of the thumb. So I've got white, and I'm just kind of outlining it so you can see. And then I'm just going to kind of put these little marks as highlights at the tips of these. And then I'll go down this left-hand side. And the reason why I said we can use some red too is if you run into an issue where you're like, oh, that didn't work out, just take that brush and put a little bit of red and white, and that's going to help you to, you know, fix any lines if you feel like they're too bold or whatever the case may be. If you don't like this big white line down the left, you could always just blend it in a little bit with the red and the white so you don't have a solid line. But that's all just a visual preference on your part. And that's all I'm going to do for that step. I will be using the same brush for the next step, but I'm going to wash it and dry it and take a bite of my delicious cookies. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step, we are using our small brush and we're finishing the black details on the face and the neck. So this is kind of similar to what we just did to the hand with putting shadows over on the right hand side or at the bottom. So how I'm going to do this, I'm using black, I'm using my small brush, and I'm going to be starting on the right side of my bird. See, I'm safe when I just say bird because it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. I'm definitely confident it's a bird. And I'm going to make myself a black outline on the right side of the bird, but I'm going to start below my the arm of my glasses. That way it still looks like there's some kind of light on the top of the head. So again, I'm just kind of doing a nice outline on the right side. This is going to visually tell the viewer that there's perhaps a shadow. And you know, you could go really into more fine detail, but this is just going to provide enough information. And then I'm also going to do the same on my mouth. So I've just got black paint. I'm starting in this area and I'm going to do a black line. I'm going to stop about midway underneath that chin, because the left side would be highlighted by the sun over there. I'm going to give my little bird a nostril. So somewhere in this vicinity, I'm just going to make myself a little cute mark like that, maybe a little curved mark. I'm going to underline my sunglasses so they have a little bit of dimension to them. Even if I run into a little bit of wet paint, which I think I just did a little bit, no big deal. Underline and put it to the right. So I'm putting my black line to the right. I'll probably stop about midway here, maybe somewhere there. So again, it's underlining it and to the right of any kind of objects that you see, something like that. I'm gonna put one under, you know, a underline and a shadow on these little pieces in here. So there's one there. I'm going to underline the top bridge of the glasses, something like this. Maybe I'll go all the way across with this one. Maybe it's a nice piece of metal at the top of those sunglasses. And then the funnest little mark I'm going to make is the eyebrows. So I suspend them in the middle of the air as if he's like, whoa, this is so cool. And he's having so much fun and he's showing some expression. So I'm gonna just maybe put one there. You could make them look like confused and make them like have waves to them, but I'm just kind of like, he's just having a good time and he's partying and he's having a super fun time. And that's going to be my black little detail. So I am going to use the same brush for the next step, but you're going to wash it and dry it and get ready for the next step. All right. So here we go. We are going to be doing a step with our small brush. We're going to be doing the red tongue and the highlights on the whole head and the neck. So I'm going to be using red, white, and black, and I'm going to start with red, and I'm going to do my tongue first, and I'm just going to kind of suspend a red area in here, so I don't bring it all the way to the edges. I'm going to leave a little black edge there, and I'm making it just, I'm using thick red paint because I know with a black base, it's going to turn darker as it dries. So if you don't want yours to be too dark, just use thick paint. And it's just kind of a oval type shape that's coming out from the top right hand corner. And now he totally looks like he's talking to us. He's gonna give us a fun message about love and peace, and he's just having fun. He's a cool dude who's enjoying the summer air. And then now that I've got his tongue and he's able to talk to us now, I'm going to start with the highlights. So I want this part, the chest, to be the lightest. I want some highlights on the top of the beak and the bridge here and here. So I'm going to just start with white, and I'm going to put in some easy ones. One's going to be like right at the top of the face, maybe on that side of the mouth. Maybe I've got a little one on the top of the head, something like that. Now I'm going to go and move right into the chest and start putting them here. I think I'm going to use red or white and red here just so it's not too stark on here. I guess you could make it really bright if you wanted to, but I'm just going to give the illusion of some highlights here. And then I'm going to put the highlight on the beak. So that's where we're going to be introducing a little bit of black. So I have white and red on my brush, and I'm just touching my brush a tiny bit into black, and this is just going to add like a little almost grayish highlight to the front part of the beak. And I don't use a lot of paint, and I'm just kind of rubbing it in. And if you feel like you've gone too much, just add back a little bit of black onto the surface. So I just picked up a little bit of black just so I can get it to blend in a little bit. And you could have yours on the pinker side or on the grayer side. Whatever visually works for you is totally fine. And then we have one last super cool step to do, and we're going to do it with this same brush. So once you get your highlight on there, you've got him, you know, piecing out to us. You can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right. So what we're doing for this next step is we're doing the peace signs, symbols in these sunglasses. So how I'm going to start this is I'm using my small brush. I'm going to start it with white, but I'll also be using fluorescent green, fluorescent purple, blue, and yellow. I'm starting it with white because I know the white is going to provide me with a really good base, and it's going to get my shape going. And I'm going to make my symbol with dots. So I'm going to first start with just a circle. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to be creating a pretty big circle within my the center of my glasses. And I'm using dots because I don't want it to be a really clean line. I want it to kind of look a little messy because I want it to kind of look like flowers, like the peace sign is made of flowers. Because I know that they had a lot of flower power back in the 60s when this peace symbol was, I believe that was when it was first created. And then I'm going to just dot down a vertical line, and then at the halfway point you can bring down 2 diagonal lines, one to the left and one to the right. And I'm going to do that on the other side as well, only this one's going to be a little bit smaller because it's intended to look like it's a little bit further away with the perspective that we have on our glasses. So I've got my circle that I made, then I'm going to do my vertical line. It can be at a little bit of an angle if you want it to be. Then I'm going to do my 2 diagonal lines that start about halfway up or down that vertical line. Now I'm going to start introducing the brighter colors. So I don't wash my brush, I'm just going to wipe it on my paper towel, and I'm going to pick up whichever bright color I want. So I'm going to start with green, and I'm just going to put dots wherever I want this bright green to be represented. You could do the whole thing, and then you could do just one line. You could make them, both of these have the green in the same exact spot. It's really up to you. Again, I want mine to kind of resemble like flowers. but maybe you want yours to just be a nice solid color. I just picked up yellow, so right now I have yellow on my brush. So I'm going to do a couple of little areas with the yellow. And I think I'm going to wipe my brush on my paper towel, pick up some blue. And again, have fun with this. You can have it in whatever color pattern you want. I'm going to put some blue over on this side too. You could make it bright, you could make it dark. Maybe yours are, you know, all purple. Maybe you really like the purple that I'm about to use. And maybe you want your entire peace sign to have to be purple. Maybe you want yours to be red. It's real, you know, you can have colors right next to each other. I'm putting purple and green right next to each other. You don't have to just have one color in one area. You could have the green and the purple right next to each other. So it's really about getting something that is visually appealing to you and have fun with it and make it as bright as you want it to be and as fun as you want it to be. Maybe you incorporate some of these colors elsewhere, like maybe you put some of these colors in his eyebrows, or maybe you put a fun, you know, cool bracelet or a necklace on him. I don't know if it's a he or she, whatever the sex of your flamingo is, you can have whatever you would like for decorations, but I am definitely having fun getting these nice and bright. Maybe I'll put a little bit of red in there. Really have as much fun with this as you want to. And once you feel like you've got it looking like it's this cool peace sign and everybody's happy in the world, because we all need some messages of peace and happiness and getting along, then we are going to call it. Sorry, I'm putting another little highlight on here. That's going to do it for this. We do have one tiny little step to go with the small brush. So wash and dry that brush and get ready for the final step. All right, we are on to the final step. So the final step in any painting is to sign it. I usually sign mine in bottom left or bottom right. I think I'm going to sign this one in the bottom right with black paint. I'm using my small brush. I'm going to do my initials. You could do your first name. You could do the date. You could do a symbol. You could do really whatever you want as your identifying mark, because it's your painting. You identify it whatever way that you want. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you loved your cookies or your snack. And I look forward to painting and eating cookies with you again sometime.